Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Binti Abdul Hadi from JBA 2492C. Today, I will presenting my infographic regarding the topic Chapter 6 and Chapter 7. What is time value? Time value of money, or TVM, is an idea that an amount of money is worth more today than it will be at a later date because of its earning potential in the interim. Furthermore, with future money, there is the danger that the money will never be paid. For what reason? It also referred as net present value or NPV. The concept of time value of money is important for anyone involved in the decision-making process for some critical aspects of finance, such as capital budgeting and valuations. On the other hand, it is important for the borrower to understand the implications of the time value of money as well. In short, the concept of time value of money states that the amount of money received in the present has a higher value than the exact amount of money received on the track in the future. Let's say I offer you the option to take 100,000 ringgit today or take the same amount from me after a year. What decision will you make? If you choose to take the amount today, you have made the right choice. There are two reasons why taking the first option is better. The first is about high purchasing power. Due to the inflation, it is safe to consider that a certain amount of money can provide us with more services and goods that can be obtained in the future. You have chosen the first option in the previous example because you understand that 100,000 ringgit can give you more things today than it will give you a year later. Second is about risk involved. What if, in the previous example, you choose to receive the money a year later, but when you approach me, I had no money to give you? This can also happen to you if you lend money to someone, but they go bankrupt before they can repay it to you. This suggests that there is a certain level of risk involved if you choose to get your money later. For these two reasons, we can justify the existence of the concept of time value of money. Now, let's discuss some of the components we need to be able to calculate the time value of money. There are four components of TVM. First, interest or discount rate. Second is time periods. Third, present value. And fourth is future value. Interest or discount rate. It is the rate of discounting or compounding that we apply to an amount of money to calculate its present or future value. Time periods. It refers to the whole number of time periods for which we want to calculate the present or future value of a sum. These time periods can be annually, semi-annually, quarterly, monthly, weekly, or etc. Present value or PV, the amount of money that we obtain by applying a discounting rate on the future value of any cash flow. Future value or FV, the amount of money that we obtain by applying a compounding rate on the present value of any cash flow. We have already mentioned that the purchasing power of money decreases over time. The PV formula takes into account this reduction by applying the discount rate to the amount we will receive in the future. Due to the use of discount rates, the process of calculating the current value of a sum of money is also known as discounting a sum of money. PV, a sum of money, can be used to determine the current value of projected cash flows from bonds, annuities, loans, or any example that you are supposed to receive money from a third party in the future and you want to know exactly how much that money is worth today. To calculate PV, the formula is PV equal to FV divided by 1 plus I the power of n. As for FV, it signifies the value of a sum of money at a date in the future. This calculation is useful for investors and businesses who want to know the future value of their investment potential in order to make good investment decisions. To calculate FV, the formula is FV equal to PV 1 plus I the power of n. The concept of time value of money will be relevant in any situation where a party will receive or pay a sum of money to a third party. So, let's discuss about everyday situation where we might need to apply the concept of time value of money. EMIs, short for equated monthly installment, constitute the prime method of repaying back a loan. The need for the concept of time value arises when it comes to calculating the value of the EMIs. Let us return to the example we had talked about before. As per the example, you went to purchase a bike worth 3,000 ringgit and the dealer gives you a choice. You either pay 3,000 ringgit now or choose an installment of 1,000 ringgit at the end of each year for the next 3 years. Let's value each option one by one. This first one is a bit easy, isn't it? You can only pay 3,000 ringgit at the moment, but this amount can cause a huge decline in your savings, depending on your income and financial status. Now, for a second, if you pay 1,000 ringgit at the end of each year for 3 years, it may result in your savings being bigger because, as we have learned, the value of money continues to increase over time. Therefore, it is clear that even we pay 3 installments of 1,000 ringgit each, the effective value of this installment may be higher in the future. This is because the installment is not the current value, while 3,000 ringgit is the current value of your purchase. One should always make sure that they are either comparing two future values or two current values to make the right investment decision. Therefore, to make the right decision, you should evaluate the current value of all the installment, sum the value, and then compare that value with the current price of the products to see how much interest you paid on the product. This technique is relevant for any loan, from a home loan to the purchase of a simple EMI system home appliances. Next situation is about evaluating the value of bonds. The PV formula plays an important role when it comes to calculating the yield to maturity, or YTM, of a bond. What is the yield to maturity? Briefly, YTM is a rate of return that indicates the amount of return expected to investors if they hold bonds to maturity. For example, let's say an investor wants to invest in securities that will yield them an interest rate of at least 10%. How can investors decide whether the bonds they want to buy will give them as much return? Very simple. The YTM calculation requires the PV calculation for each cash flow from the bond to the investor. Therefore, investor can compare the YTM rate with the desired interest rate to decide whether the bond is a suitable purchase for them. In this way, the concept of time value is important for investors who want to buy bonds in the future. Working capital management mostly refer to the efforts of management towards effective management of current assets and current liabilities. Working capital is about the difference between the current assets and current liabilities. In different words, efficient working capital means making sure enough liquidity within inside the business so that can fulfill short-time period costs and debts. Working capital has its policies, which consist of 3, which are relaxed policy or conservative policy, restricted policy or aggressive policy, and moderate policy. Let us discuss one by one. Relaxed policy or conservative policy. The policy has a high level of current assets that are maintained to meet current liabilities. Here, liquidity is very high and the direct impact on profit is also high. Restricted policy or aggressive policy. This policy has a lower current asset level. Here, the level of liquidity is very low. As a result, the direct impact on profits is also low. Moderate policy. It lies between conservative and aggressive policies. There are 3 approaches here. Firstly, aggressive approach, conservative approach, and moderate approach. The aggressive strategy is one of the working capital management approaches where the company's investment in working capital is kept to a minimum. For example, limited investment in current assets. This means the entity holds a lower level of inventory, follows a strict credit policy, keeps less cash balance, or etc. Conservative approach. A conservative strategy is one of the working capital management approaches in which an organization follows a strategy to invest a high amount of capital in current assets. Here, organizations are known to maintain higher inventory levels, follow liberal credit policies, and maintain cash balances as high as possible so that any existing liabilities can be met promptly. Moderate approach. The moderate strategy is one of the working capital management approaches that lies between the two approaches above, namely the aggressive and conservative approach. In this strategy, a balance between risk and return is maintained to reap more benefits with more effective use of funds.